Sublime magnificence.
Hey guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent Big Ugly himself, Omari Ellis Feo Grande on YouTube, back with another episode of This Guy Hasn't Seen, and I am joined by my co-host and running mate, one of my best friends in the world, El Director himself, the Frozen Man himself, Frozen still, you can call him Chill, Bill Smith.
Hey, Omari, thank you so much for having me. It's always great to be here. I love doing this thing this guy hasn't seen, where we trade things back and forth. Um, this is one of your weeks.
Yes, it is one of those rare weeks. And while we've been doing something on a kick of classic movies, movies that from old and everyone knows.
Yep,
I don't have a lot of
except
those.
Omari.
I don't have a lot. Yeah, I don't have a lot of those on my list of things that I've seen that Bill hasn't already seen. But apparently, we did have one, and that was this week's choice. Guess who's coming to dinner?
Guess who's coming to dinner from 1967? A couple's attitudes are challenged when their daughter introduces them to her African American fiance. It is
Ooh.
directed by Stanley Kramer, written by William Rose, and it stars Spencer Tracy, Sidney Poitier, Katharine Hepburn, and a wonderful cast of characters.
Yes, yes.
Omari, um, like kind of like how you alluded, like we've been hitting these, um, not necessarily all of them that I've selected are like AFI top 100 kind of films, but I think a good chunk of them recently have been. And we were kind of scrolling that list, and I mentioned I haven't seen Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and you had.
Yeah, I
So, want to talk about maybe what you had remembered
um
from Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
the premise and that Sidney Poitier had did a good job. It was one of those things from when I was younger, one of those movies that I definitely watched because my mom was watching it type deal.
Uh-huh.
And and I think it also got brought up in school once and they made us watch it because guess who's coming to dinner? Da, 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 da. It's about interracial relationships and how the races deal with one another. Races, races, how the races deal with one another. So it was one of those things that I saw a long time ago. Had not had too much of an impression on me. I knew Sidney Poitier was a good actor, or Poitier, great actor, as he is. So I'd seen a few of his stuff back in the day. Just because, oh, you want to be an actor and you're black? Here's a black actor that you should probably pay attention to.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was the most that I remembered about that. It was good to. I remember liking it, but never thinking to go back and watch for whatever reason
Mm-hmm.
over the decades. But here we are now. It came back up on the list. I was like, oh yeah, that is something that's worth watching. So I was like, why not recommend it? Help break up some of the things so it's not like four bills recommendations in a row. But yeah, Bill, you have not seen this movie.
I have not. I have not. Kind of kind of a Sidney Poitier blind spot for me. Tough to admit as someone who is a film aficionado in the loosest of terms in comparison to my friend Omari here. Um, I'm not too familiar with Sidney Poitier. Poitier. I have seen In the Heat of the Night, and I think that may be it. I'm not sure. Um, so I knew he was going to be in it, or no, what I was expecting as we were communicating before you officially declared that as your selection. I Googled the title name and right big under the Google was the movie poster. And I looked at you and I said, "Oh, guess who's coming to dinner? Dot dot dot. It's a black man." um uh yeah, because
Yeah.
it's you can see it on the poster, and then you reminded me that they actually kind of semi remade it with
Guess Who with Ashton Kutcher and Bernie Mac.
right. And I had actually weirdly seen that one. I don't know why or when, like maybe like you do weird things in hotel rooms, uh beyond the other weird things. But you just do you end up watching weird things, particularly if you're someone who is like a cord cutter, doesn't have cable, and all of a sudden you have these weird channels you're surfing through.
Yeah.
I feel like that might have been one of those. I don't know. But I saw Guess Who, or yeah, Guess Who. So I knew, and you had already mentioned that Guess Who was the reverse kind of redo. So I knew what we were going into in that regard of like just like basic premise of the film.
And I had not seen Guess Who, ironically. But I saw the original. Because I think by that point, I was just in my, oh my God, another thing about fucking race. Why? That's how I felt in high school. But anyway, we're here now and we're watching it. So I guess we'll go ahead and hop right into things and initial reactions and
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They'd be more initial from you.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. I don't know if I have initial reactions. I
Fair.
mean, you got the that kind of, what was it, like a jazzy,
Mm,
bluesy, like soprano sax
yeah.
vibe kind of
With the
thing.
plane flying in. It
Yeah.
wasn't one of those old movie credits like we discussed last week, but it was
Um,
old enough.
I don't know what's gonna come here. Like, what is this movie going to be? The couple just constantly facing opposition? Is this going to be a movie of just like a bunch of white people being way overwhelmingly overtly positive about it, and like not is this going to be just like a fluff film? I don't know on those regards. And then like San Francisco title card comes up at some point, and I'm like, okay, so it's, I mean, even back then, I mean, and maybe even especially back then, that's okay. It's a very liberal city. All right.
Mm,
His parents live, or her parents live there. Okay. So that's um then the art gallery thing, and I'm like, all right, they're rich. All right, so she's wealthy. We can determine that. Um, and then the attendant at the art gallery is given the vibes of what you would kind of anticipate
yeah,
from
that's
this
what
type of film.
because she's just like, oh, and your mother knows. Mm,
Like, yeah, I mean, she's kind of the main opposition of the film. And it's really just her just kind of like snide comments and looks toward John.
yeah,
Um, uh, but otherwise that's kind of the last bit. So I'm like, all right, I'm trying to gauge her, and that's interesting. And I'm also kind of gauging Sidney Poitier, because that's an interesting experience for me, because like in my mind he kind of lives as like 55, you know?
yeah.
Like he's kind of forever 55.
Same,
So, and I don't know why. Uh
because because probably when we were kids he was, or not really, because well maybe actually.
Yeah, I don't know if he was fully grayed by like the time we were like 10.
Yeah,
Uh
maybe.
to be like an older man beyond 55.
Mm.
Yeah, but In the Heat of the Night is the same year, 67. So the one film that I think I've seen of his, he's not 55. Maybe I don't know. I picture him as an older man. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. This is interesting seeing him a little younger. And absorb it was a long time ago that I saw it In the Heat of the Night. So I'm trying to like absorb Sidney Poitier, you know? Um, and then we get to the house and we're like, oh yeah, this okay, this bitch is rich. This bitch is rich. Um, and then I want to say, so yeah, I want to just go ahead and jump to the point where the father comes in
Okay.
because it is at this point in the film where I am like captivated by all of these performances
Okay.
in a way. Like, I don't know, there's a charm to this film, and I don't know if it was just because it caught me on a good night and I came to it like particularly bought in. I was expecting I think I was leaning towards expecting like schmaltzy garbage
Yeah.
in a good way.
I'm not
Um,
gonna lie, my memory wasn't the best of this film. I was kind of in the same boat.
so I was like, best case scenario, maybe it's just super schmaltzy and we're choosing the right thing and we're all good people and this is the way that society should be kind of film. But it's good doing that.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, all right, so maybe that's it. But I guess I came bought into it enough to where I don't know, I just like by the time the dad has a little bit of time on screen, I've been like, okay, well, Joey is fine. She's not being asked to do anything much other than just like, I'm super happy and positive.
That's how I
Um, but
felt.
she's doing
I'm
that
like, I'm not
fine.
sure how I feel, but I think she's doing all right.
She's doing that fine. But I am in love with Sidney Poitier, Katharine Hepburn, and Spencer Tracy in this movie. And then the very next big plot point is the Reverend arriving to the house to see why his golf game got canceled. And Omari, I decided in that moment that I love this movie. Like I was like, I literally don't care what happens next. I don't care how this movie finishes because I have fully put my trust in my trust is a fragile little dove in the hands of the
So this
makers of
movie.
this film, and I'm in. And because of Katharine Hepburn and Sidney Poitier, most of all, but honestly, everyone around them doing an amazing job. Um,
Yeah, I
I was
like you
like, yeah.
including Tracy earlier because the more I thought about it, especially when it got to the end, I'm like, I kind of understand his characters and everything. Because the main thing you hear about this movie that a lot of people make it about, including the fucking a good chunk of the plot as well as the cover of the movie, makes it feel like it's entirely about race and like that's where all the conflict is going to come from, the parents being mad that it's a black guy and a white woman. And while those conversations are brought up, there is a lot other stuff that I could see parents being frustrated with the situation, which he kind of also touches on near the end where he's just like, I've had a crazy day. And where, because it's a 37-year-old and a 23-year-old. That's already a huge fucking age gap, which is
Mhm,
like, okay, regardless if you're the same race or not. Really? That you couldn't get anybody in the 30s? If you're a
mhm.
parent and your daughter comes in. Then she said they met 10 days ago. and they plan on getting married in 2 weeks. Also, you got to be okay with it by the end of the day today. I can see why he's upset. And then when they do touch on the things where he's looking at it from a race thing, isn't so much, how could my daughter marry a black man? Like he asked him at one point, have you thought about what your kids are going to have to deal with being mixed? Even, have you guys even discussed this? I did think it was funny that he was like, she thinks our kids will be president. And I'm like, well, technically, a half black, half white man, about 40 something years later,
With
did
Hawaii
become president.
connections.
With Hawaii connections, did become president. Obama's just the result of the kid from there. I'm kidding, but you know what I mean.
No, yeah.
I was like, so like technically, as I wonder how far fetched it sounded back then, but technically, the future they envisioned happened.
I mean, the dad said it. The dad said it. He was like in, or maybe in 50, 60 years, but not in your lifetime,
Not
and
mine.
probably not even in mine.
Yeah.
Which yeah, I mean, kind of almost nailed that time frame a little bit. Um, but yeah, so I didn't take any notes because I was just too into this book. Like we've talked about this before. We've covered these type of films. Um, if you're able, because I know some folks of our generation just kind of aren't able to watch these and buy into them. The car scenes with with the moving pictures behind them and somebody doing this.
Love that.
Um, you know, the projection the projection backyard
Yeah.
of their patio and all of that, and just kind of the way it's shot, the fact that it just takes place in 3 rooms the majority of the movie, with a couple of car scenes,
And like a
2
bar
brief
scene.
stops at an airport, and
Hmm.
1 scene in his bedroom.
And a scene in the bar or whatever with
Oh,
that double date.
right. Yeah. That random double date scene. Um,
Which, yeah, random as hell.
uh,
Wasn't even on their agenda of things to do that they laid out 5 times. It's just like,
no,
eh.
it was in there earlier. Something about her best friend and that she really wants him to meet her.
Oh, okay.
It was listed in there, but I thought she was coming to the house. Uh, um,
Guess who's coming to dinner? They say the title about 4 times, which is fantastic. Always love a that's the title moment.
yeah, and you get it multiple times here. Oh God. One of the, I mean, usually a key component in all of the guess who's coming to dinner moments. We haven't even brought her up yet. Tilly is doing great work, just coming into every scene, just eyeballing John and just being like, I don't trust this motherfucker. And then just her speech to him when he's getting changed, just like straight up, just like, no, any room you're gonna be in, I'm gonna be in, motherfucker. And you're not even that good looking.
I'll show
Slams the
you what
door.
black power truly is. Like, all right. Okay.
um Yeah, so I don't even know where to begin with okay, standout moment. Uh um him him asking for the dirt sheet on John from his secretary, because at this point we've learned he's the fucking owner of like the San Francisco Herald or some shit. The dude owns a fucking newspaper in one of the largest cities in America. Um so he gets like the dirt sheet on John, and is like, okay, I don't know why you wanted to know about this guy, but I'll start listing things off. um Graduate of blah 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 college
So
with
many
honors. uh
accommodations.
Professor at Yale Medical School. Fucking
Doctor
uh,
of African Studies and,
yeah,
and all this other
Nobel
shit.
Peace Prize, like.
Yeah, she's like a list of other accommodations about as long as your arm. I can keep going. Did you need to know more? No, I'm good. No wonder he doesn't tell anybody who he is. Who would believe him? Like Jesus Christ. Yeah, very accomplished. I didn't like that moment. I like the moment where Hillary comes over does her little racist shit, and then the mom
Oh
telling
my
her
God.
off in the fucking
Oh, so
parking
yeah, those
lot.
instructions that I needed to give you. So I need you to go back to the gallery right away. First, grab Becky. Let Becky know that she's going to be taking care of a few things for a little while, and then I'll be reaching out to her soon. Then I need you to go into your office, and then I need you to pull out the checkbook, and I need you to write out a check for cash for $5,000. And then I need you to take all of your shit and get it out of my fucking business. You're fired. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I love it. She's just like, did everything there that will remind me of you. What I want you to do after you did as you take that check. And did you never come back to my office again? What is it? No, shut up, get out. Like, hey.
And then doesn't, and then keeps it to herself.
Yeah, she just
I
comes back
loved
in.
that character moment about it. She just walked in and she was just like, didn't use, like, could have easily used it as a badge of honor in front of John or
Yeah.
later in front of his parents or something. But no, keeps that a secret to herself the entire film. It's just like, yeah, that lady was a bitch to my daughter and her new
Yeah, she's
love
like, why did you
interest.
even come here? Well, I was so curious. You must be upset. But I think that she would do something like that. And I'm afraid you would be upset to be associated with folks like us. So get the fuck out of my fucking face, you damn bitch.
I loved that. I did. I loved that.
That shit was cool. And what I thought was crazy was as much as they were there with the parents, as worried as we were supposed to be think I feel like a lot of the advertisement and just with America being the country that it is slash was, you're led to believe that the parents are gonna have a big problem with the racial fact that their daughter's marrying a black man.
I mean, yeah, a good portion of this film. Yeah.
And it's like and I think and the dude tried to tell early on, he's like, it's not the fact that he keeps calling it to me and all this stuff. But like we said with everything everywhere all at once, it's one of those things where you could be like, yeah, the parents complaining about one problem, but it's really the problem here. So you still, and the reverend even tries to call the dad out on that. He's like, I should have known that with all your liberal bravado, deep down was a bigot raring to get out. And I was like, Jesus. But at the same time, you realize that what's his name's not telling his parents, or so scared to tell his own parents. And it's like, no, I could write you. I could write them about it. But Jody wants to go now. She's all just, why not now? What to do? 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 No, girl, there's a society out there you're unaware of.
It's a thing that you wanted to do in person. Why
Yeah,
can't I do it the way I want to do
yeah.
it?
Just because you want to do this in person doesn't mean you need to invite my parents here when I haven't even told them you're white, let alone you want to get married in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you want them here in 2 hours or 4 hours?
And that's what the dad keeps saying throughout the movie. He's like, I would be struggling with this if it was just some dude. And she was like, I've known him for 12 days. We're getting married. I won't see you for 4 months. I'm leaving tomorrow. Like,
Yeah. And then it changed to I'm
give
leaving
me your
tonight.
consent
Yeah,
or
I'm
I'll
leaving
hate you
tonight
forever.
after dinner. Give me your consent or she will hate you forever. What? What? How dare you just come in? Because at first he's like, almost sounds like an ultimatum what you doing, or ultimatum, as he put it. And he's like, oh, it's not. All you need to say is goodbye. And he walks away. I'm like, okay. Uh, but yeah, the parents get there, they're rightfully confused too. But it seems like both moms just kind of accept the situation for what it is relatively quickly.
I
And then the dad's just,
it's at this point where I fall in love with Katharine Hepburn doing what she's doing. Like, she spends the middle third of this movie on the verge of tears constantly.
yes.
It's insane. It's insane. It's so powerful, everything she's doing. And beyond just her acting choices, the characters' choices in the film. I'm just in love with her. I mean, again, like I'm still thinking about the thing that she's keeping completely like the most honorable person is the person who does the thing in the shadows like that and
Yeah.
doesn't broadcast it, like to do that and to just keep it completely to herself, and then her fighting for their relationship and her talks with the reverend there, as the couple, as John and Joey have split up or gone away from the house and are like going on that double date and then going to pick up his parents, um are incredible. But it caps off with the two moms talking on that patio. Oh my God. Like that entire sequence
Yeah.
is so good, is so good. The when you we go from the two of them talking to the two dads talking to John's mom and or no, then we go to John's mom and John, which is wonderful, and you're seeing a side of John because he's alone with his mom that he hasn't shown on the film yet. And so that's really nice. But then you get one of the most powerful scenes of the movie, which
Oh,
is John's mom and Joey's dad, where she just fucking, oh man, just they're back to back. Like
yeah.
her to his mom to her dad, and then him to his own dad in the next scene.
Oh,
Man, we're just like, bah, bah, fuck you, you motherfucker.
yeah. It was like, I don't owe you shit. You did all that stuff. You did all those jobs because you owed it to me. Because you brought me into this world. Just like I'm bringing any son that if I have another one, and I have to do everything to them. You don't own me. And then he immediately turns it around to just, Dad, like, seriously though, man. I love you. You my dad, but you got to learn. That whole scene.
Oh yeah, that's the line of like you'll always think of yourself as a colored man, and I
And
just
I'll
think of
think of
myself
myself
as a
as a
man.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like yeah. I mean, the back third of this movie is just filled with powerful monologues. Like
Mhm.
for like acting geeks and theater nuts and stuff. Yeah, this is just like
Oh, I loved it. And then we get to the big thing where the dad's like, okay, I
and I
just
love how the Reverend is just everywhere.
yeah.
Like a door opens and he's sitting in the background back there. Like people walk past frame and he's standing in a corner holding his drink.
Yeah, he's just there. Which I also thought was funny. He was like, would you like a drink? No, you've had enough. No, I'm not giving you one. You've been drinking the whole time. But the dad, when he has his big moment, I'm like, and he explains his day, and just like, so wait, where's Tilly at? Tilly, get in here. No, you're part of this too. I come in, and the first thing she says to me is, all hell is broken loose, and won't tell me why. Just says, you'll see. And then I'm hit with like 5 surprises in a row. Also, he didn't even bring up, I think, running into a car and having a guy yell at him.
Right, that's a whole moment. His interaction with the ice with the drive-through attendant, the drive-up attendant, was oh my gosh, it was just like if you've been in service and have ever had older people, you've encountered some version of that person that's just like, I was here 5 years ago and I really liked an ice cream. I don't remember what it was called though. Okay.
What am I supposed to do with
What do you
that?
what do you want me to do with that information? Like, was it chocolatey? Was it fruity? Did it have a particular color?
Yes, I
Like
don't
which when he
remember.
honked, he just took it. No, this wasn't the ice cream. Honk honk. Can I help you, sir? This wasn't the ice cream, but it's actually okay.
And he's like, "Can
Okay.
you recommend the boysenberry to me next time?" Just kind of looked at him like,
Yeah,
"Sure."
sure.
And
Yeah.
then he backs up. I wanted him to crash because I thought it would be funny. And then he actually crashed. I'm like, "Oh no." He crashed. And then the guy's just like, "What are you gonna do? Blah, 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 blah. How much do you think it's gonna take? $40 easy. Here's 50. Buy a new one.
$40. What?
$40
What?
to fix getting pretty much T-boned. Or $50 apparently to buy a new one. What are we talking about? Well, how have cars gone that? How has cars and or money gone that far off the deep end where 50 was enough back then versus now? You thought your 5-cent hamburger turning into $3 was bad. But that was fun. But yeah, we get to the climax eventually. Dad's giving his speech about everything. It even breaks down because
Tells us the story of the whole movie.
yeah. And then he's like, but I realized eventually, more than likely through talking to John's mom, uh, it doesn't matter. Oh no, he got mad at her for accusing him of having forgotten everything.
Yeah. He said, yeah, she straight up told him, she was like, "You are just like my husband. And the two of you it has been so long since you've actually loved a woman passionately that you don't even remember what it feels like. So, of course, you couldn't support my son and your daughter because you're a dried up old prude."
No, they've known each other 10 days. But he did eventually just go, to be fair to her and to them, if they have what they have is half of what I felt for you, who am I to stop them? And he's like, yeah, so I'm fine with it. I understand his dad won't be fine with it, but maybe we'll get him to come around. So it
And
wasn't
as
like,
the Reverend pointed out like two different times to Joey's dad, he's like, these are two really smart motherfuckers. Do you think that they're like not exploring the options of this scenario? You really think that the examples that we portrayed of these two characters would like rush into something foolishly? This man hasn't looked at another woman like this for 8 years.
that is true. When you, well, I will say, when you do put it like that, he is like the super genius dude. So he would be smart enough to not be blinded by love. And he even kind of shows that when he's like, girl, you are too optimistic about coming back home and telling everybody this shit. Can you calm down for just like 10 seconds and listen to me? I get it. You don't see race, you don't see color. We're all the same people. That's fine, but the rest of the world aren't wearing the glasses you are, and we got to consider that when we talk to people, that there
I
may be
mean,
some backlash.
they really hit it home. It took them till almost the movie was over to use the line that what they're doing is illegal in 16 states currently. Like that should have been said, I feel like earlier in the film, because that that like
That also,
that kind of tells you like this isn't just like a like, oh, it's
uh,
gonna be hard for you because people will stare at the grocery store or something. It's like, no, like there's a quarter of the country that you can't go to now.
yeah.
So yeah, that was a really strong statement.
But yeah, the movie, like he had his monologue. So, like you said, powerful monologue after powerful monologue after powerful monologue to like climax the movie that ends on a fucking monologue, pretty much.
Yep.
Credits just roll for all of like 10 seconds. Old school movies, credits were all like front loaded. But yeah, anything else you wanted to touch on?
Another moment I
Random
loved
B plot
was
with the
uh
but
with the
not even B
with like the
plot.
butcher delivery
the,
guy
yeah, the delivery guy
and
and the
the
girl
assistant
just
to Tilly.
random like here's another interracial
Weird scene, but I
relationship.
guess like maybe that was like
I thought it was gonna be a
required for the 60s.
parallel. Yeah, or just like, oh, here's a parallel that we're gonna see later. This couple come back. That's the white guy and black. No, literally just random ass scene.
Yeah. Like it's the 60s, so we got to have like a groove out moment. I don't know.
Yeah, don't be a square. This is what the young people are about.
um I did love uh so this is after Joey's father has received Dr. John's resume
Okay.
from his secretary. And then the Reverend shows up, interacts with the couple, has lovely things. Like I said, this is the moment when I fell in love with the film. Um, and then he goes out to the dad and he's like, I've read about your visitor. He's in like magazines and stuff. Do you know what he's doing? And then he tells him the story of like, yeah, he's built a mobile medical university that travels through rural
Africa.
Africa and teaches the bright minds of tribes and cities to on how to perform like basic to semi-advanced medical techniques. Like, this man is literally the perfect human being. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what to
Yeah.
tell you. Like I really dug it. I really really did. I really did. And I realized like I have left a Sidney Poitier hole in my viewing. And to be honest, I need to get better on Katharine Hepburn. Is that I've seen the Philadelphia Story, and I've seen like On Golden Pond. Because my mother really loved On Golden Pond, but that's when she was much older.
Let's say
Um,
she did a lot of stuff, if I remember correctly.
oh yeah, absolutely. She worked for a long time. Philadelphia Story is 1940. On Golden Pond is 1981. Those are the two movies that I just mentioned. Those are the two that I've seen, other than this one, and I can't tell you if I've seen a fourth. So you have 1940, 1967, 1981 in the three films now that I've seen. So there's a lot of years there in between where she was making movies that I probably need to check out a few of them. Um, I adored this film.
Yeah, I have a much better appreciation for it as an adult, as someone who can look at it from outside of just face value and all of that stuff to actually understand the plot that I'm watching and all of that and appreciate the acting that I am witnessing.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I do really enjoy this movie, and it was funnier than I was expecting. You were saying you used the word earlier that I hadn't heard before today, and I thought it meant something completely different. But I think you were saying you were expecting it to be a lot more like
Schmaltzy.
yeah. But I think you were saying schmaltzy as like a positive thing,
I mean,
or
like, as
like
in,
what is
like,
schmaltzy? Because
I was thinking there were two routes that it would go. This was either going to be a film of, oh, look at how hard this couple's life is, or it was going to be a film of everybody loves and accepts them, and isn't this great? The world should be like this. We're all happy.
gotcha. Yeah,
That's the
I
schmaltzy. And I was
gotcha.
like, if I'm going to have those two alleyways, I guess I would prefer
Yeah,
watching the schmaltzy one.
as someone who had forgotten just about everything, in all honesty, because of how long ago it was,
Hmm.
I was expecting the path number two, not the schmaltzy one, the other
Yeah.
one, and so I was happy that we got somewhat of a middle ground.
Yeah.
It never went full one way or the other. The parents normally seem to live a borderline small C life as long as they don't have to actually interact with anybody. I'm joking, but you know what I mean. But they that's the image they want to live, especially with it being San Francisco. They're definitely about acceptance. That she even said her parents taught her from a young age. This and the parents said it too. This is exactly what we didn't expect her to come home dating a black guy, but we definitely taught her there was that shouldn't be a deal if she did, and now she's here.
Mhm.
And when she tried to tell him about like the Tilly thing, she's like, "Oh yeah, don't tell her whole life. I don't care. Like I don't see her any different than I see Tilly. I've known Tilly my whole life. Black people are black people. They're just people at that point."
Yeah, I loved that the end of that line with her of just something of just like I love you so deeply, and if I like, why am I allowed to love you and I'm not allowed to love him?
Yeah.
And I was like, there you go,
When you
great,
ask the
great,
question,
great line.
it's one of those things where it's like you ask the question, it's like, yeah, you have a point. I've never understood the frustration. It's one of those things where I understand and then don't, because I have to ask myself, why would I understand it? Like a parent, like two same race parents have a kid of their race, and then that kid dates someone of another race. And I'm like, me and my incessant need to try to see things from both sides, there's always going to be a part of me that's like, well, I can see why they would be upset. But then I ask myself, well, why are they upset? And I can't justify it. It's just like whether it's two whites mad that their white daughter's dating or two blacks mad that their black son is dating, or you know what I mean? Either way, there's the whole, I think it's just product of environment. You grow up around people that tell you and instill in you a us versus them mentality, even if you don't agree. But that's why when you see like, oh yeah, they're mad. I can see why they'd be mad, and then it's like, but I'm like, can I? They shouldn't be, and I can't justify. So it's weird. But I like the way the movie handled it because it wasn't just about that. And at the end of the day, that last speech, the dad was mainly just talking about it ain't got to do with him being black. I mean, it's got a little to do with him being black because the whole conversation about kids in the 16 states, it's got to do with everything else. And then the other shit that happened throughout the day just you guys like if y'all would I feel like if they would have just been like, oh, we're dating now, that's one thing. There's some initial shock, but she just was yes, and then he's leaving tonight, he's going overseas, and then I'm going overseas and I'm marrying him. And we met 10 days ago. And he's
It's a lot.
14 years older than me.
It's a lot.
Like, Jesus. But yeah, that is a lot, and that is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
All right.
So, Bill, what are we watching next week?
Well, Obari, I am thinking, um, you know, either way, I have my pick, but I'm also hoping you will indulge me in hijacking and just doing a 2 week in a row.
Ooh,
Um, because I'd like to cover two films from a
okay.
from a specific director, and
Sounds intriguing.
I'd like to just go ahead and do them back to back. So we're gonna do them chronologically. First one up next week, Raging Bull, right here on This Guy Hasn't Seen.
Raging Bull Durham. All right, we got. But yes, I think that's probably why I hadn't seen Bull Durham. I probably, whenever I heard the title, got it mixed with Raging Bull, which I clearly haven't seen as well. If I thought if they were the same movie
And I
in
guess you
movie
didn't want
form.
to see it, which is why you didn't see Bull Durham.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what Raging Bull is anymore.
All right.
Or if I ever was. I'm looking forward to it. But if you want to see other stuff we have watched, we have 2 years worth of stuff on this
Woo!
channel. Woo! Season 3 going strong with the big time movies as well. But you can check those out on the channel. You can also find me elsewhere on YouTube. Speaking of 2 year long backlogs, I got a show called the Whatever We Want podcast with a good friend of mine and good friend of the show, Super Jazz.
Super Jazz.
Thank you very much, as nature intended. But
Yeah, you can also find us on You Don't Watch Sports. That's a show we do every Saturday, um, where we cover sports for the people who don't like sports. I know it's an incredibly stupid show concept. We got more coming for you. You know, movies for people who don't watch the movies, sports for people who don't like sports. We got it coming for you.
whatever the show we got, you'll find out by the title, okay?
So feel free to go check that out. I think it's a pretty cool thing.
I love it.
We'll drop just a couple of tidbits of sports knowledge on you. Maybe mix in a little bit of sports adjacent things, sports entertainment things. A lot of fun we have over there on Saturdays midday. So go check it out.
I know this is a blues hat, but go Battlehawks.
This is the Asheville Tourists.
Nice, nice.
Asheville Tourists minor league baseball team.
All right. Well, that said, you guys have a great day. Adios.